Hello, I'm Dr. Anita Schelgiker. I'm joined today here with Dr. Jan van den Bulck, a professor of media effects and media psychology at the University of Michigan. Welcome to our session today on creating a healthy sleep environment. So Dr. van den Bulck, today we're here starting in a living room type of environment, which is where many of us start our evenings. We have dinner, we may kind of wind down from the day by watching TV. And then can you tell me more about how that kind of feeds into our nighttime and our sleep?
Well, I think a lot of it is habit and ritual almost. So at some point in the evening, many of us feel I need to wind down, I need to stop doing what I had to do, and now I have some me time. And for many of us, that involves some kind of TV viewing. I think for sleep, the issue is that once you decide to watch television, you kind of let go of your control. And the way television is designed, and the reason we enjoy it, is it gives us something. You can be watching a show that's really exciting, and then that show ends, and now these days with streaming television, you can watch the next episode and find out whether that favorite character of yours was killed or not. Or maybe there's breaking news, and breaking news is designed to make us want to know what happens next and where it's going. So there's a lot of things there that make it difficult for us to stop. And we're not really that conscious of it. I mean, we stop tracking time because it's our downtime. And so you have to be aware of that. That's part of your evening, and it's something you're going to have to conquer, as it were, if you want a healthy sleep habit.
Absolutely. And I think one other concern with watching TV is the amount of light that we get exposed to.
We're sitting in front of an artificial light right here. We would never dream of saying, let's end the evening by sitting in front of this for an hour. But in a sense, that's what we're doing when we're watching television. And again, it's something we're not really that aware of. We're not doing television, we're maybe behind a laptop, or we could be reading on a book on an e-reader. So there's a lot of these, in today's world, there's a lot of these artificial lights that we expose ourselves to without realizing it. This is a light that's very obvious. All these other lights are there, but we're not that aware of them.
Absolutely. So one step that we could do to create a healthy sleep environment is to put that on our radar and to be more conscious of the amount of light we're exposed to in our home environments, even when we're winding down.
Right. I think it's not a matter of you're not supposed to do this or it's dangerous. It's a matter of taking control, being aware of what you're doing and making a conscious choice instead of just letting it happen.
Absolutely. And a conscious choice to dim the lights or reduce our exposure at a certain time.
Right.
Absolutely. Great. Well, now we're transitioned to the bedroom to talk about how we can make changes with our exposure to light even in the bedroom. Okay. Hello. Well, we're here now in a bedroom environment, and it's nice and cool in here, which is an important feature of a healthy sleep environment. But we again wanted to talk about our exposure to screen and lights. So Dr. van den Bulck, can you fill us in on your expertise, your experience with this?
Well, bedrooms have changed, and we're not always aware of that. Like, there was a time when you send your kids to their bedrooms as a punishment because that's where you're isolated from the rest of the world. Today we have TV screens in our bedrooms very often, and even if we don't, we now bring a little computer with us that has access to the internet, to streaming video, to anything, to our work emails. So again, we need a lot more self-control than we ever needed before. You may not be the person who watches television at night, but then maybe you're the person who checks their email right before going to bed. Or your phone may be pinging you in the middle of the night because something trivial has happened or something important has happened. But we're kind of almost training ourselves to be distracted in a bedroom. And that's a big deal in today's bedrooms, I think.
So I'd like to talk more about adults and then more about children, teenagers, and even younger children. So let's start with adults first. Can you give us some of your insight about your research with that?
Right. So I think for adults, the issue is especially things like email. Work never leaves us anymore. We take our work with us. We check our emails right before we go to bed because we want to make sure nothing important has happened. But if something important is there, now all of a sudden either we feel the need to go and deal with it, or it keeps us awake and we're thinking or ruminating about it. So that's a big issue. Then there's all the distractions that we're not really that aware of, like checking your Facebook page, or again, we think it's something that only takes a few seconds, but there's always the risk of getting hooked again and then losing a lot of time. So we need a lot of self-control to deal with that one little device, and I think a big step is becoming more aware of it. In my case, for instance, there are certain TV shows that give me nightmares. So it doesn't mean I can't watch television, but it does mean that if I'm clever, I'm not going to be watching those things right before I go to bed. So I think little steps like that, becoming aware of what you're doing, will go a long way to regaining a little bit more control over the things that distract us in our environment.
Absolutely. I think one other potential easy place to start is to buy a separate alarm clock, to not have your phone as the alarm clock, because then again the phone is there with all these other distractions too.
Or put it on airplane mode, so it's still, you can still use it as an alarm, but at least nothing's coming in from the outside. But even then, I think you're absolutely right. An alarm clock is there for one thing only, and it reduces the sort of the attraction of doing something else. You reach for your phone to check the hour, and you see something came in, and now all of a sudden you're on social media. That doesn't happen with an alarm clock. You can see what time it is, and you can set the alarm, and that's it.
Absolutely. So speaking about social media, let's talk about social media and children in the bedroom.
So one big thing that we're insufficiently aware of is social media in particular. Kids use it for communication. Again, we used to send kids to a bedroom because that would isolate them. That was a punishment. Today, that's where they're in touch with their friends and the rest of the world. And so it's not just a question of, do I have enough self-control to stop being on Netflix or to stop posting stuff on social media. With kids in particular, there's a lot of peer pressure going on. So if your friends are liking stuff on their social media, you may feel a pressure to continue to do the same thing, because otherwise you're not part of the group anymore. So as parents, we have to become aware of that. I often say that we have to be anthropologists in our own family, because you constantly have to learn what's new and what all the different and the new ways of interacting with each other are. I mean, we're often not aware of the stuff that our kids do on their mobile phones, on the internet, on their computers.
Absolutely. And can you talk more about the light exposure even coming from this small screen? We may think of it as trivial, but it's actually not.
Well, and we take it into our beds with us. So, and I think that's new. We've never had that. We have this little light source with us the whole time, and almost everything we do uses that now. So that really is something we have to be concerned about.
Right. And you had talked about even making small steps for incremental change. We talked about trying to use a different device as an alarm clock. What do you think about trying to keep the phone outside of the bedroom entirely?
So that's a really good question and a really difficult one. I think it works really well. I mean, you immediately cut off access to everything that's distracting. It works for adults too, by the way. If you leave your phone out there, you're not going to be tempted to use it. At the same time, I think policing isn't necessarily the right answer. I think that the right answer is having a conversation about this. If you can't trust your kids, they'll find a way around it. They're always one step ahead of us, especially with technology. So having the conversation and making them aware of how important this is and why you are concerned about it is probably even more important than kind of strong-arm tactics like taking the phone away. Having said that, the threshold is so low to use this stuff. Like, and I think we all know that. I mean, maybe for one person it's email and work, and let's just have one more look at it. For somebody else, it's I'll just watch one more episode of my favorite show, or I'll have a quick look at Facebook. So making it physically impossible to have access to that kind of distraction would be a really big step. So it would be a good idea to keep the phones out of the bedroom.
Right, if we could.
If we could.
Yes.
Because I think that's getting hard. It's such a part of how we live now that that's going to be a really tough conversation for a lot of people.
I think it's interesting that you comment on social media and how that generates a feeling of community for people who use it of all ages, teenagers or adults.
Right.
Perhaps creating a healthy sleep environment could be something that someone generates a community after, that you try as a group to say, okay, we're going to not text each other for the next 8 hours. That's a really good
point. I've never thought of that before, but the same way some people would tell you if you use the curse word, say that's rude. If we start telling each other, I think it's too late to be texting me right now. And if that became acceptable, that would be a way to help each other deal with these pressures.
Right, or maybe a challenge a family could take together.
Right. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. This wraps up our session on how to create a healthy sleep environment.